Hey everyone, and welcome to DevOps Corner. If you're into all things DevOps, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps us out. All right, today we're diving deep. We're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful and, yeah, let's be honest, one of the most complex tools out there, Kubernetes. In this explainer, we're going to break down its architecture piece by piece and really demystify what's going on under the hood.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine your application just blew up. It's a massive hit. You're scaling like crazy. You've gone from, a handful of containers to hundreds, maybe even thousands, all running on a whole bunch of different machines. So how in the world do you manage that kind of chaos? Seriously, how do you handle updates, deal with failures, and scale everything on the fly without needing a huge team working 24/7? Well, that right there, that's the exact problem Kubernetes was born to solve.
And the answer, you probably guessed it, is Kubernetes. But here's the thing, it's not just another tool. It's a whole framework built from the ground up for resilience. I mean, we're talking about a system that can literally heal itself by restarting failed containers. A system that can automatically scale your app up or down depending on traffic. And, this is the big one, it can roll out new updates with zero downtime. Your users won't even notice a thing. So, you might be wondering, how does it actually do all that? Well, to really get a handle on it, let's use an analogy. I want you to think of a Kubernetes cluster like a living organism. Seriously, it's got a brain that makes all the big decisions, and it's got muscles that do all the heavy lifting. If you can just hold on to that one simple idea, brain and muscle, it's going to unlock everything else we talk about. All right, let's break down this organism. On one side, we've got the brain. In Kubernetes speak, that's called the control plane. Its job is to make all the global decisions for the cluster, keep track of everything, and react when something goes wrong, like a pod crashing. And then, on the other side, you've got the muscle. These are the worker nodes. They're the machines that are actually running your applications, doing all the real work. It's a pretty simple relationship, right? The brain thinks and directs, and the muscles do the work. Okay, so let's start with the brain. We're going to pop the hood on the control plane and see what makes it tick. What are the key parts inside that allow it to make all these smart decisions? First up, we have the API server. You can think of this as the front door to the entire cluster. No, actually, it's more than that. It's the front door, the main switchboard, and the bouncer all rolled into one. Literally, every single thing that happens, every command you send, every status update has to go through the API server. It's the gatekeeper that validates every single request before it lets anything in. Okay, so a brain needs a memory to function, right? Well, for Kubernetes, that memory is a component called etcd. At its core, it's a super reliable key value store, but its job is absolutely critical. It holds the entire state of the cluster. I mean, everything. What's running, where it's running, all the configurations, it's all in etcd. It is the one and only source of truth for the entire system. Next up in the brain is the scheduler, and I love this analogy. Its job is to be the ultimate matchmaker. So when you create a new application, in Kubernetes we call that a pod, the scheduler wakes up, it looks at the pod's needs, how much CPU and memory it's asking for, and then it scans all the available worker nodes to find the perfect home for it. It's constantly playing this game of Tetris, making sure every pod lands in the best possible spot. And now for my favorite part, the component that really shows off the magic of Kubernetes, the controller manager. Think of this as the cluster's autopilot. It's basically a bunch of little robots, or controllers, that are constantly watching the state of the cluster. Their only job is to compare the current state to the state you want. If a pod dies, the controller manager immediately sees that mismatch and springs into action to create a new one. This is the absolute core of Kubernetes' famous self-healing ability. All right, so that's a quick tour of the brain, the control plane. Now let's talk about the muscle. What's happening on the worker nodes? Who are the players on the ground that are actually doing all the work? On every single worker node, there's a little agent running called the kubelet. This is the node's loyal soldier. It's always on, constantly phoning home to the API server and the control plane, asking, "Got any new orders for me?" When the scheduler decides a pod belongs on its node, the kubelet gets the order and makes sure that pod's containers get started and stay healthy. It's the on-the-ground manager. Then there's kubeproxy. This guy is the network plumber for each node. It handles all the complex, nitty-gritty networking stuff. It makes sure that all the pods can talk to each other, even if they're on totally different machines. It sets up all the network rules and routing so that traffic from the outside world can find your application. Without this plumber, nothing talks to anything. And last but not least, on the worker node, we have the engine itself, the container runtime. This is the software that is responsible for actually running the containers. You've probably heard of some of them, like Docker or Containerd.
The kubelet is the manager, but the container runtime is the one that gets its hands dirty, pulling the container images and firing them up. Okay, so we've met the whole team, all the components in the brain and the muscle. Now for the fun part. Let's see how they all work together. We're going to walk through a super simple Hello World example, and you'll see how all these pieces come together in this, well, it's like a perfectly choreographed automated dance. Before we look at the code, you have to understand the most important concept in Kubernetes. It's a total shift in thinking. You don't tell Kubernetes how to do things. You don't give it a step-by-step list of commands like, run this container, then connect it to that network. No. Instead, you just describe the end result you want. You give it a blueprint of your desired state, and Kubernetes makes it its mission to turn that blueprint into reality. This is what we call the declarative model, and it's a game changer. And we describe that desired state using a manifest file, usually written in YAML, just like this one. See? We're not writing a script with a bunch of commands. We're just declaring things. We're basically saying, hey, Kubernetes, I want a thing called a deployment. Its name is hello world-deployment. And the most important part, I want you to make sure there are always 3 copies or replicas of my app running. Got it? That's it. So, what happens the moment you hand this file over to Kubernetes? Well, that whole system we just talked about kicks into gear. First, the controller manager, our autopilot, sees the new request. It looks around and says, the desired state is 3 replicas, but the current state is 0. We've got work to do. It then creates a request for 3 new pods. Next, the scheduler, our matchmaker, picks up that request and finds the best worker nodes to host those pods. Finally, the kubelet on each of those chosen nodes, the loyal agent, gets its orders from the control plane and tells the container runtime to fire up the containers. Boom. Just like that, reality now matches your desired state. All automated. So if there is just one thing, one key idea that you take away from all of this, I want it to be the power of that declarative model we just saw. Think about it. Because you just declare your end goal, Kubernetes takes care of all the automation. You don't have to script out the how-to part. This is also what makes self-healing possible. Let's say one of our 3 Hello World containers crashes. What happens? The controller manager instantly sees the state has drifted. It sees 2 instead of 3, and it automatically starts the whole process over again to create a replacement. It's always working to enforce your desired state. That simple idea is what makes Kubernetes so incredibly resilient and so powerful for running complex applications. And there you have it. That's a look under the hood at the architecture of Kubernetes. It's really more than just a tool, isn't it? It's a totally different way of thinking about how we manage our applications. So my question for you is, now that you understand the blueprint for this incredible automation, what are you going to build with it? Hey, thanks so much for watching. I really hope this explainer helped clear things up about Kubernetes architecture. If it did, do me a huge favor and hit that like button, and maybe share it with someone else you think might find it useful. It really helps the channel grow. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.